Toto and I are back on the porch for our Summer of Stillness series, and this week we're talking about guilt and shame and how guilt can actually be an empowering force because it's based on a behavior. I made a mistake and I can learn from that mistake and I can do better next time. Where shame is more at the core of your identity. It says, I am the mistake. It's guilt that soaks into a dark place and it becomes isolating and you beat yourself up. And this is where we need the Lord's help. And we find it through a story in John chapter 4 where Jesus meets a woman at the well. And there are 4 things that I want to point out about this story. The first one we see in verse 4 where Jesus says that it says he had to go through Samaria. And we have to know that Samaritans were the despised breed. They were the mixed breed. And so Jews avoided them at all costs. But Jesus had a divine appointment. In the Greek, it says it was necessary. And every morning I have a divine appointment right here on my porch. And I encourage you to do the same, to carve out that time to be with the Lord. Because as we see in the story, he is always seeking us as he sought out the Samaritan woman. But she had to show up at that well. And so I show up on this porch every day. The second thing was through their conversation in verse 16, it starts where he exposes the root of her shame when he says, go call your husband. And she says, well, I don't have a husband. And he responds, you have 5 husbands. And there it is, the root of her shame. And this really made her stop in her tracks and made her believe. So she had an openness to believe. And sometimes it's just a mustard seed, but she was curious and she wondered, who was this stranger? He must be a prophet, she said. And then by the end of the conversation, she realized this could be the Messiah. And what does she do? She drops her water jugs and runs to town. And at verse 28, it says, she went back and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? And so this woman who was avoiding people and going to the well during the day and in isolation is now running through town telling everyone, this man knew everything, all of my shame, all of my marriages and husbands, and he knew it all. Come and see this man. And so then through her belief and her curiosity and her openness, the last thing she did was she shared this testimony. And that's what we are to do, is to use our brokenness, our guilt, our shame to help others. And that's what I'm trying to do here on the porch every week through our Summer of Stillness series, because we all have gone through things and struggles. And we need to share our testimonies to help others. And so I encourage you this week to read John chapter 4, this story, if you struggle with shame, to see how Jesus helped. He had this divine appointment with this woman at the well. He exposed her shame in a very loving, careful way, but he did call her out. She believed. She had an openness. She listened to him and she was open to what he had to say and believed. And then she shared her testimony. And so that's our lesson for this week. I hope you tune in next week as we talk about the stillness stealer of loss. We've all had it in our lives. Take care. Bye-bye.
Be still and know that I am God.